Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Gaurav Sharma and with me is Nishit Kumar bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. UN Chief Antonio Guterres urges everyone to count on India as it assumes G20 presidency to help usher in a new era of sustainability. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches Mission Lifestyle for Environment movement, asserts Mission Life makes fight against climate change democratic. World leaders congratulate Prime Minister Modi for the initiative and pledge support. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh terms current era as a golden period for the Indian defence sector, calls upon industries to manufacture international standards products. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss resigns from her post after remaining in power for just 45 days. Farmers in New Zealand stage protest against the government plans to tax cow burps and other greenhouse gas emissions. In Hong Kong, shares declined nearly 3%, hit the lowest level since 2009. In sports, India scripts history at the Under-23 World Wrestling Championship in Spain after winning 3 medals for the first time in the Greco-Roman category. And in Denmark Open Badminton, Satwik Sairaj and Chirag Shetty beat the Indonesian pair to enter into the quarterfinals in the men's doubles category. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched Mission Lifestyle for Environment Life movement at the Statue of Unity at Kevadia in Gujarat on Thursday. Congratulatory video messages on the launch of Mission Life by the heads of 11 nations representing all regions of the United Nations were also relayed. Addressing the gathering, Mr. Modi said that the mantra of Mission Life is Lifestyle for Environment. Emphasizing the benefits of Mission Life, he said that it connects the powers of the people for the protection of this earth and teaches them to utilize it in a better way. He emphasized that Mission Life makes the fight against climate change democratic, in which everyone can contribute within their capacity. Mr. Modi asserted that climate change goes beyond only policy making, and people themselves are finding that they should contribute as an individual, families, and as communities to the environment.
क्लाइमेट चेंज को लेकर ऐसी धारणा बना दी है जैसे सिर्फ पॉलिसी से जुड़ा विषय है। ये बात सही है कि सरकार, अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संस्थाएं उनकी भूमिका बड़ी है, लेकिन अब इस मुद्दे की गंभीरता चर्चाओं से बाहर निकलकर दुनिया के हर कोने में, हर घर में आज नजर आने लगी है। पिछले कुछ दशकों में हमने इस दुष्प्रभाव को और तेज देखा है, अप्रत्याशित आपदाओं को झेला है। आज हमारे ग्लेशियर्स पिघल रहे हैं, समुद्रों का जलस्तर बढ़ रहा है, हमारी नदियां सूख रही हैं, मौसम अनिश्चित हो रहे हैं और ये बदलाव लोगों को सोचने पर मजबूर कर रहे हैं कि एक व्यक्ति और एक समुदाय के तौर पर उन्हें इस धरती के लिए कुछ न कुछ जिम्मेवारी उठानी चाहिए, खुद ने भी कुछ करना चाहिए।
The Prime Minister elaborated that Mission Life emboldens the spirit of the P3 model, that is pro-planet people. Mission Life unites the people of the earth as pro-planet people, uniting them in all their thoughts.
मिशन लाइफ P3 की अवधारणा को मजबूत करेगा। P3 यानी प्रो प्लेनेट पीपल। आज हम एक ऐसी दुनिया में जी रहे हैं जहां इस बात की चर्चा रहती है कि कौन किस देश या गुट के साथ है और कौन किस देश या गुट के खिलाफ है, लेकिन मिशन लाइफ धरती के लोगों को प्रो प्लेनेट पीपल के तौर पर जोड़ता है, उनको अपने विचार से समाहित करता है, एक कर देता है।
The Prime Minister expressed delight at the support that he has showered upon India for taking up the Mission Life initiative and thanked the heads of all the nations for sending in their congratulatory messages on this gracious occasion. Highlighting the importance of unity in the fight against climate change, Mr. Modi said that the launch of Mission Life is taking place before the Statue of Unity, a colossal statue of the pride of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. The Prime Minister said that India is committed to tackling the menace of climate change. World leaders including France, the UK, Argentina, Georgia, Guyana, Madagascar, Mauritius, Estonia, Nepal and the Maldives sent congratulatory messages to Prime Minister Modi for the initiative and pledged their support. Speaking at the event, UN Chief Antonio Guterres said that in these perilous times for our planet, they need all hands on deck. He said that Lifestyle for Environment, the LIFE initiative, is designed to highlight essential and hopeful truths. He also urged everyone to count on India as it assumes G20 presidency to help usher in a new era of sustainability, fully in line with its history, its culture and its tradition.
I also congratulate India on its upcoming G20 presidency. The G20 accounts for 80% of global greenhouse gas emissions, but it also represents 80% of global GDP. So the G20 combines as the resources, the know-how and the power to end our war against nature and set us on course to more sustainable living. And central to that goal is the urgent need to pivot from economies based on fossil fuel consumption to economies powered by renewable energy. A revolution in which developed countries must invest massively, financially and in technological support to allow emerging economies themselves to also be able to present more ambitious targets.
Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Modi held a meeting with the UN Secretary General. They also paid floral tributes at the Statue of Unity.
Indian Defence Minister said that the current era is a golden period of the country's defence sector. He said this while speaking at Invest for Defence event held as a part of DEF Expo. The event witnessed participation from domestic and foreign institutional investors. Mr. Singh said that the Indian industry has showcased its capabilities by manufacturing fighter aircraft, aircraft carriers, main battle tanks and attack helicopters. He added that India has to create healthy environment for investors that will not only give them good returns, but also give them recognition in domestic as well as global markets. The event was organized to promote investment in the defense sector in the country by both the Indian industry and foreign original equipment manufacturers. Meanwhile, the Bandhan ceremony was held at Mahatma Mandir Convention and Exhibition Centre at Gandhinagar and marked the conclusion of DEF Expo 2022. The exhibitions would continue for 2 more days at the Helipad Exhibition Centre for the general public. A total of 451 MOUs were signed at the DEF Expo. The DEF Expo introduced the growing strength of Indian defence manufacturing to the entire world. Increasing procurement by the defence forces from the indigenous manufacturers shows the growing level of trust between the tri-services and the domestic manufacturers. Giving the valedictory address at the Bandhan ceremony, the Defence Minister said that while the DEF Expo is concluding, a new chapter in defence manufacturing is starting in India. He added that the last 3 days have shown the world that India will be a global defence production hub of the future. From aircraft carrier to combat helicopters, from battle tanks to fighter jets, India now manufactures a wide array of defence platforms. Many foreign countries have shown interest in procuring BrahMos missile and the light combat aircraft Tejas from India. Mr. Rajnath Singh said that the remarks made by foreign delegates in the India-Africa Defence Dialogue and the Indian Ocean region plus Defence Ministers Conclave show the growing global stature of India.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh called upon the industries to manufacture state-of-the-art, cost-effective products to make a mark in the international market. Addressing the Raksha Mantri's Awards ceremony for excellence in defence and aerospace sector for the year 2021-22 at Gandhinagar in Gujarat on Thursday, Mr. Singh voiced the vision of the Ministry of Defence to showcase the capabilities of the Indian defence and aerospace sector to the world. He highlighted that the aerospace and defence sector at present is an industry of about 80,000 crore rupees, in which the contribution of the private sector has increased to about 17,000 crore rupees.
Indian nationals have been advised against travelling to Ukraine in view of the deteriorating security situation and recent escalation of hostilities across the country. In an advisory issued by the Embassy of India at Kyiv in Ukraine, Indian citizens, including students, have been advised to leave Ukraine at the earliest.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring to you a news commentary on the 90th Interpol General Assembly connecting police with a safer world.
The 90th Interpol General Assembly at Pragati Maidan in New Delhi was inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Interpol President Ahmad Nasir Al-Rais, Interpol Secretary General Jürgen Stock and Central Bureau of Investigation Director Subodh Kumar Jaiswal were also present on the occasion. The Prime Minister highlighted that India is celebrating 75 years of its independence, which is a celebration of people and cultures. He also informed that Interpol will be celebrating 100 years of its inception in the year 2023. Mr. Modi remarked that it is a time for retrospection as well as a time to decide the future. It is a great time to rejoice and reflect, learn from setbacks and look to the future with hope. The Prime Minister observed that the connection of Interpol's philosophy with Indian culture and underlined the similarity between Interpol's motto of connecting people with a safer world with a quote from the Vedas stating, Ano bhadra krajtavo yantu vishata, that is, let noble thoughts come from all directions, which he elaborated is a call for universal cooperation to make the world a better place. India is one of the top contributors in sending brave men and women to the UN peacekeeping operations. Mr. Modi said India made sacrifices to make the world a better place even before she got independence. Thousands of Indians have sacrificed their lives in world wars. Talking about COVID-19 vaccines and climate targets, the Prime Minister informed that India has shown a willingness to take the lead in any kind of crisis. At a time when nations and societies are becoming inward-looking, India calls for more international cooperation. Global cooperation for local welfare is our call, Mr. Modi added. Police forces across the world are not just protecting people, but are furthering social welfare. They are at the front line of society's response to any crisis. During the COVID-19 crisis, police personnel put their own lives at risk to help people out of difficult situations. The Prime Minister underlined the geographical and cultural diversity of India and talked about its size and vastness. Indian police, he said, at the federal and state levels, cooperate to implement more than 900 national and around 10,000 state laws. Our police forces work while respecting the diversity and rights of the people promised by the Constitution. They not only protect the people but also serve our democracy, he said. The Prime Minister said that Interpol has connected police organizations globally across 195 countries for the past 99 years. To mark the glorious occasion, the Government of India released a commemorative stamp and coin. The Prime Minister reminded the General Assembly of the emerging harmful globalized threats that the world faces, such as terrorism, corruption, drug trafficking, poaching and organized crime. When threats are global, the response cannot be just local. It is high time that the world comes together to defeat these threats, Mr. Modi said. Throwing light on the evils of transnational terrorism, Mr. Modi remarked that India has been combating it for several decades, even before the world recognized it. We knew the price of safety and security. Thousands of Indians made the ultimate sacrifice in this fight. The Prime Minister elaborated that terrorism is no longer fought only in the physical space, but is spreading rapidly through online radicalization and cyber threats. The Prime Minister explained that an attack can be executed or systems can be brought to their knees just by the click of a button. Mr. Modi observed that what we do within our borders is no longer enough. He suggested the establishment of early detection and warning systems, protecting transportation services, security for communication infrastructure, security for critical infrastructure, technical and technological assistance, intelligence exchange, and various other things be taken to a new level. The Prime Minister said corruption and financial crimes have harmed the welfare of the citizens of many countries. The corrupt, he continued, find a way to park the proceeds of crime in different parts of the world. This money belongs to the citizens of the country from which they have been taken. Often, this has been taken from some of the poorest people in the world. Furthermore, the money is put to many deleterious uses. The Prime Minister emphasized the need for the global community to work even faster to eliminate safe havens. There can be no safe havens for the corrupt, terrorists, drug cartels, poaching gangs or organized crime. Such crimes against people in one place are crimes against everyone, crimes against humanity. Police and law enforcement agencies need to devise procedures and protocols to increase cooperation. Interpol can help by speeding up red corner notices for fugitive offenders. A safe and secure world is our shared responsibility. When the forces of good cooperate, the forces of crime cannot operate, the Prime Minister observed.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has resigned from the post just 6 weeks after her appointment. Speaking outside the door of her number 10 Downing Street office on Thursday, Truss accepted that she could not deliver the promises she made when she was running for the Conservative leader, having lost the faith of her party. She said there will be Conservative leadership election to be completed within the next week.
We set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. There will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security.
Earlier in the day, Conservative Party officials had gathered at Downing Street while a growing number of her own lawmakers called on her to quit. Ms. Truss becomes the shortest-serving Prime Minister in British history, just for 45 days. George Canning previously held the record, serving 119 days in 1827 when he died. Appointed on the 6th of last month, 47-year-old Truss was forced to sack her finance minister and closest political ally, Kwasi Kwarteng, and abandon almost all her economic program after their plans for vast unfunded tax cuts crashed the pound and British bonds. Truss's premiership came under renewed pressure after the Home Secretary resigned and a chaotic vote on fracking. There was fury yesterday around the vote and the methods used to get MPs to vote with the government. Talking to AIR, former Ambassador Manjeev Puri said that Britain appears to be in a topsy-turvy situation in terms of its economy and political leadership.
The resolution of Prime Minister Truss clearly says that if you don't manage the economy well, you are in serious political trouble. Secondly, Britain appears to be in a topsy-turvy situation in terms of its economics, in terms of its politics. But I would say that in Britain, democracy and politics is quite a stable affair, and the country will continue to be on its autopilot mode. Britain has a faltering political leadership. The Tories have to introspect. It was they who chose her, knowing fully well that on a large number of issues, especially dealing with the economy, her positions were somewhat iffy. We need to see how the party will come around, what will be the process that they choose, because as of now, the process for choosing a new leader of the Conservative Party is a long drawn-out process which takes several months.
Meanwhile, Liz's former leadership rival Rishi Sunak is the bookmaker's favourite to take over in number 10 Downing Street, followed by Penny Mordaunt and Defence Secretary Ben Wallace. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has confirmed he will not stand to be the next Conservative leader and the UK Prime Minister. French President Emmanuel Macron said it was important that UK finds stability as soon as possible.
Chinese President Xi Jinping hinted at the continuation of country's aggressive foreign policy posture for the next 5 years as he presented his work report at the opening of the 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party. He is also widely expected to be reaffirmed for a third term as the country's leader. Experts say that even though Xi did not refer to any individual nation, but he clearly signaled that China is likely to continue a more aggressive foreign policy as he touted China's growing global clout. He also warned against external attempts to suppress and contain China. President Xi put special emphasis on upgrading the country's national security and intensifying troops' combat preparedness, urging a strong system of strategic deterrence, which media reports said is a reference to the People's Liberation Army's dramatic expansion of its nuclear weapons capacity in the past 2 years. He also said that China will increase the proportion of the new domain forces with new combat capabilities and promote coordinated development and application of the Network Information System. China has been vigorously upgrading its capabilities in cyber information warfare and space domain in the last decade, tenets of which were reflected in Xi's speech. Speaking at a press conference on China's diplomacy in Beijing on Thursday, Ma Zhaoshu, member of the CPC Committee of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, hit out at the US for willfully pursuing power politics, bullying and hegemonism. Xu Heqian, an expert in international relations in Beijing, said that as compared to 2017, Xi's political report, the 20th Party Congress, was more vigilant about describing the external environment.
In New Zealand, farmers across the country on Thursday protested against the government plans to tax cow burps and other greenhouse gas emissions. Convoys of tractors and farmyard vehicles disrupted traffic in Wellington, Auckland, Christchurch and other major hubs. The protesters are demanding the government to back away from an animal tax. Last week, the government proposed a new farm levy as part of a plan to tackle climate change. Animals produce methane and nitrous oxide as a byproduct of munching on grass and feed. About half of all greenhouse gas emissions come from farms. According to reports, methane is responsible for roughly 30% of the global rise in temperatures, despite being a fraction of the greenhouse gas mix. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has pledged the nation will become carbon neutral by 2050. It is worth recalling that there are 10 million beef and dairy cattle and 26 million sheep, compared to just 5 million people in New Zealand. Farming remains vital to New Zealand's economy. Dairy products, including those used to make infant formula in China, are the nation's largest export earner.
In Hong Kong, shares declined to the lowest level since the global financial crisis after a major speech by the city's leader on Wednesday. The benchmark Hang Seng Index fell by more than 3 to its lowest level since May 2009 before regaining some ground. Investors are also concerned about the threat of a global economic slowdown as central banks around the world raise interest rates to tackle rising prices. In his first policy address, Hong Kong's Chief Executive John Lee announced measures to boost security and plans to attract more overseas talent to the territory. However, he did not elaborate on economic targets for the city, which has lost ground to rival Asian financial centers like Singapore. Hong Kong's economy is currently in a technical recession after seeing 2-3 months period in a row of contraction this year.
U.S. President Joe Biden has announced a series of steps aimed at easing the oil supply crunch and lower gas prices, which have become a major domestic concern ahead of the November midterms. Mr. Biden confirmed the release of 15 million barrels from the nation's stockpile, known as the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, in December. He also said from the Roosevelt Room, the administration is taking the unusual step of planning to buy oil to rebuild the strategic reserve once crude falls below the $70 per barrel. Officials said that step is meant to send a clear signal to the market and incentivize domestic oil production. Mr. Biden also called on oil companies to pass on the savings to the consumers.
Chad's President Mohamed Idris Deby has declared a state of emergency as the country struggles to deal with exceptional flooding that has affected millions of people. He said that heavy floods in the Central African country has affected 636 localities in 18 of its 23 regions. He said that it is causing tens and thousands to flee and decimating thousands of hectares of cultivated land. Even in the capital, hundreds of people have fled their homes due to flooding in the last few days. Floods are not uncommon during Chad's rainy season, which usually runs from May to October in its southern regions. But this year, the rains came early and were the heaviest in decades.
The Sensex and the Nifty today witnessed modest gains amid negative cues from the global share markets. The Sensex closed above the 59,200 points, while the Nifty settled above the 17,550 level. A report from the business desk.
The Sensex rose 96 points or 0.16% to finish at 59,203. The Nifty also added 52 points or 0.3% to end at 17,564. At the global stock markets, Asian stocks posted losses amid concerns about rate hikes by central banks which outweighed resilient corporate earnings. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index tumbled 1.4%, while Japan's Nikkei and South Korea's Kospi both fell 0.9%. China's Shanghai Composite Index slipped 0.3%. Singapore's Straits Times ended almost flat. Europe's shares were trading mixed in intraday trade. Oil prices gained around 1.5% as investor sentiment rose on the news that China is considering a cut in the duration of quarantine for inbound visitors. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $93.75 per barrel. And in the forex market, the rupee strengthened 27 paise against the US dollar. The domestic currency closed at 82 rupees and 75 paise against the American unit. Rajesh Lake for World News, All India Radio.
The World Health Organization, WHO, has said that it will temporarily shift to a one-dose strategy from the standard two-dose vaccination regimen for cholera due to vaccine shortages and rising outbreaks worldwide. The WHO in a statement said that the pivot in strategy will allow for the doses to be used in more countries. The WHO's Emergencies Director, Mike Ryan, said that the change in strategy was a sign of the scale of the crisis caused by a lack of focus on safe sanitation and immunization for all the risk. The statement highlighted that 29 countries had reported cholera cases in 2022, with Haiti, Syria, and Malawi fighting large outbreaks of the deadly disease. Cholera is an acute diarrheal infection caused by bacteria found in contaminated water. The disease affects millions worldwide every year.
In the World Under-23 Wrestling Championships, India's medal tally rose up to a record 3 on Wednesday. Vikas and Nitesh earned 2 more bronze medals for the country as Nitesh dominated Brazilian opponent Igor Fernando Alves de Corazon in the 97 kg category, and Vikas defeated Daigo Kobayashi of Japan in the 72 kg category in Pontevedra, Spain. Earlier, Sajan Bhanwala became the first Indian Greco-Roman wrestler to win a medal at the World Championship tournament. It is the first time that India has bagged 3 medals in the World Under-23 event.
In Denmark Open Badminton, Satvik Sairaj, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty defeated the Indonesian pair of Mohammad Sohibul Fikri and Bagas Maulana 21-14, 21-16 to enter the quarterfinals in the men's doubles in Odense on Thursday. In women's doubles, Pudeza Gayatri Gopichand and Trissa Jolly lost to Thailand's Jongkolfan Kitty Thrakul and Ravinda Prajongzai. And now before we end, let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Wall Street Journal reports that United States, Europe struggle to keep Iranian drones from Russia's military.
The Washington Post notes that U.S. has viewed wreckage of kamikaze drones Russia used in Ukraine.
The Financial Times says Rishi Sunak emerges as bookmakers' favourite to replace Truss in the UK.
The Guardian writes that China using influencers to whitewash human rights abuses. This has been revealed by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute.
The Globe and Mail writes Malaysia election set for 19th November amid fear of floods.
South China Morning Post reports that Taiwan has signed a $77.8 million technical service contract with the United States to better maintain the performance of its Patriot air defense systems in intercepting missiles from the People's Liberation Army.
And before we end, a quick look at the headlines once again. UN Chief Antonio Guterres urges everyone to count on India as it assumes G20 presidency to help usher in a new era of sustainability. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launches Mission Lifestyle for Environment Movement, asserts Mission Life makes fight against climate change democratic. World leaders congratulate Prime Minister Modi for the initiative and pledge support. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh terms current era as a golden period for the Indian defence sector, calls upon industries to manufacture international standard products. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss resigns from her post after remaining in power for just 45 days. Farmers in New Zealand stage protest against the government plans to tax cow burps and other greenhouse gas emissions. In Hong Kong, shares declined nearly 3%, hit the lowest level since 2009. In sports, India scripts history at the Under-23 World Wrestling Championship in Spain after winning 3 medals for the first time in the Greco-Roman category. And in Denmark Open Badminton, Satvik Sairaj and Chirag Shetty beat the Indonesian pair to enter into the quarterfinals in the men's doubles category.
And now before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from Germany.
With that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.